today on another conversation with Tyrone. Let's chat.
Hey, what's
It's
up?
more
That's me.
today is more like of a let's chat about Corona than a Fanny interview. No,
Sure, let's chat about Corona because we've talked a lot of times. We've gone on radio shows together, and we've done this show even formatted before. So I'd say we're pretty good friends. We know each other pretty well. We know our tendencies pretty well, uh, and it's probably more interesting to just see us talk for a little while rather than like do a formal interview because that would probably we would be just telling each other things we already know about each other, right?
that's
Maybe.
true. No,
Okay.
yeah, definitely. I consider now I'm not just like a fan of Let's Chat. I've been invited a few times for conversations on podcasts, on the Free Thought,
Sure.
the radio, with Larry and you. And yeah,
Yeah.
I consider the entire group close friends
Let's do it.
right
We're
now.
friends.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I told you today on Shine the Skype, I was like, what? We don't talk through Skype. Eight
No.
months for
Yeah.
the conversation, the last conversation was 8 months ago. And but of
Mm.
course we always chatting on the chat
Right.
on this
Yeah.
epistemology group. And it's always fun. You
Yeah. We
know,
probably put down
every
like 10
weekend that
hours of just talking about stuff that most people don't really talk about in the first place. So it's kind of interesting. I think one of the cool thing about street epistemology too is like you can have like a 5 minute conversation with someone and then that's like you know that person so well that they're like email you 3 months later. It's like, hey, remember that conversation you had? Like, yes, I remember the things you were wearing. The grounds that we got into is like really cool. So like, it's always cool how quickly you can make friends and when you're just willing to open up and talk to people. But we were talking about something that you wanted to talk about, right? Something I wanted to talk about too. But I'm kind of tired of talking about it, to be honest with you. But let's talk about it anyway. Coronavirus,
No,
right?
it would be more like we don't want to talk about this, but since everybody's talking about this,
There
let's
you
talk
go.
about it too.
Let's talk about it again.
I don't know.
Maybe
Everybody was trying to avoid, but it ends up being, you know, pulled to end up talking about this. But
sure.
we could try to go to a different idea. Try to do like more let's chat in interaction, and you can try to pull like the opening talk about the date that I actually brought something you did not know
Oh, you did?
about.
What?
Yeah, the atheist day.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Happy Atheist Day.
Yeah, happy atheist day. And then I love that I mentioned to you, it's like, did you know March 23rd is like atheist day? I saw something
Such a
like
random
that
day.
last year on Twitter. And maybe the beginning of this month, I saw Atheist Republic start
Oh,
posting the things about the green circle. So it's
the
like a
green circle.
picture with a
Okay.
green circle and people posting that as the atheist day, prepare for, I don't know, we would have a march, but since Corona, so
Sure.
at
Yeah. You
least
don't want
people are showing up
to
online and support atheism, but saying like banalize atheism. I think it's,
vandalize atheism.
yeah,
Vandalize not believing in
no,
something.
no, banalize like in the way to make it normal.
Normalize it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Normalize atheism. Yeah. Yeah. Not that I support. Yeah. Yeah.
I said
Absolutely.
banalize. I don't know if that is
Type it
the
out.
right.
Type it out. Are you saying normalize or vandalize? Because it
Not
sounds like you're saying
no,
it
not
sounds like you're saying
vandalize.
vandalize.
No, banalize with B A.
Banalize?
Yes.
I don't know what. Oh, make it more banal. Make it more
Yes.
normal.
Yeah.
Whoa, yeah, that's some hardcore English you're using right there. That's pretty good.
No, it
That's
was not
Canada
me. I
talking.
think it was Atheist Republic or let's see here.
Banalize.
How
Wow.
we're
I know
so
what
connected,
banal means.
nowadays that
So
you
yeah,
need to check our informations all the time. But I'm
that's
pretty sure
that's high school level
um,
vocabulary coming at me again.
it came from Atheist Republic at first. It could be something like David Silverman that is
These people.
related to. Not sure. So much. Like the problem is like, have you tried to go back and try to find an information? It's like then like it's like a rain after it.
Hmm.
Like it's a waterfall. It's like you can't find anymore. It's like so much.
Hmm.
So, and then I find out that a lot of replies to things that I shared.
So tell me, how's the coronavirus affected you, or like in your immediate interactions with people?
No, not that I know.
No.
Of course, I have had like a cold and
Mm,
flus, and we're on the season of the
true.
viruses and the
Yeah, pollen
cold
season
and the
too.
flu
Mm,
season. Uh, I
spring,
have suffered
basically.
from respiratory infections and affections in general since January like 2nd, when my daughter went to daycare the first time.
Sure. And she
And
gets
we
sick, and
know
then
that
she
it's
coughs
like
in your
a
face.
natural history, it's like the
Uh,
natural history of the disease, but this is for like kids. The only kids
mm,
go to daycare first time, you take like months sometimes for them to go through all the cycles of all the germs and bacteria and microbes that they're gonna contact, and then you're gonna they get sick, and then you get
mm,
sick, and
mm,
sometimes cycle in the family,
mm.
when it's getting
Yeah,
better,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
you
yeah,
get it
yeah, yeah,
again.
yeah. It happens same thing at work too, but
So
in families, it's like everyone's always making each other sick in a big cycle. It kind of makes families stronger in a sense when you think
and
about
that
it. But
is one
yeah,
of the
yeah, yeah.
things I don't know, I've mentioned in other videos, like everybody should be considering that, at least in the conversation, like of the narratives of like alarming people or
Mm,
calming people with this, with data that can be analyzed on both sides. And I
mm.
think that's what you're trying to talk a little bit more, I imagine.
I can tell you, like my bottom line is, I understand the precautions is necessary because people, when they die, that's like someone's dad or their daughter, and we don't want that to happen. And if it's preventable, let's do what we can to prevent it from happening. We'll wash our hands, and if we can stay inside and affect people from not getting sick, we can do that too for a period of time. It's all good. But if we take that to the next level and say, you now have permission to be an asshole, you can go to a grocery store and take all the baby formula. You can look at an aisle full of bread and buy all the bread, take all the milk, take all the water, take all, whatever have you, toilet paper, whatever's the piece of du jour in a grocery store. And you decide that my ability to hoard materials outweighs the common um, value of my community that I'm in. You've taken it too far. And I feel like there's two reasons for that. One, you got people with really bad personalities that don't really consider their consequences on that on other people. But then you also have a perpetrating narrative that's being purported, which I feel has an agenda behind it, mostly due to we need to sell ads, or we need to feel good about ourselves, or I want to be an armchair, doctor or virologist all of a sudden, and I need to just continue to throw out information. As long as people are paying attention to me, I'll keep throwing out information, even if it's misleading. And when people follow that, they end up ultimately doing things that might be harmful to them in the long run, like wearing PPE or personal protective equipment that won't actually protect them from viruses, or cross contaminating areas because they're not washing their hands and they have nitrile gloves on and they're touching everything in the grocery store. And then they go in their car and they drive home and they touch everything in their home. Next thing you know, their home's as dirty as the grocery store that everything was touching. I'm just like, dude, when you wash your hands, you reset that cycle.
Yeah, I
It's very
actually
simple.
think
Go for
there
it.
is just so much to talk, because like those individual measures, of course, driven by fear, they end up being excessive and sometimes harmful to other people. uh
Mm.
Yesterday we went out to gas the car, and
You
we
went.
were having normal lives. So it's okay, we did our 2 weeks shopping when
Mm,
we everything finished, when we had like no milk, no bread anymore, anything. And what happens, like we went to the store, and some items were like bread, we could not choose the one that we like because was missing, it was
yeah,
had finished before, and they had like only one type. I was like, wow,
yeah,
too bad, but I still gonna buy just one, instead of try to stock up my house with
yeah,
bread that will be, that other families will come and not get.
yeah.
Exactly what I want to avoid. The same thing with toilet paper. I talked to other person another day, and talking about the toilet papers, I do buy the toilet paper every month or 2 weeks when we go. And I will still do that because I think it's only missing, like there is this lack of toilet paper on the shelves because some people are actually going
Scary.
and buying
Yeah.
unnecessarily for like more than what they would need. And
Mhm.
that end up being scary for other people, and and unnecessarily, like because you did not need to do that at all.
Right.
You could just do your normal life. So like definitely it is the public reaction,
Right.
overreaction that cause the this counter reaction of like it's a wave of fear. But then I
Yeah.
was out, we went to gas the car, gas up the car, and I was in the car watching around people behave, and I was laughing in the end because I saw like a guy that was like he ended up like going farther on the way of like struggling with a little um uh, one of those baby wipes to pick up his credit card on his bag and put it back and
Mm.
keeping the handle to start the gas.
Mm.
And I was like, look at that, now he's putting his foot where other
Right.
people are going to put their hands just because he's so afraid, but then he's harming other people. And I saw a lady that was just inside the car and she was just normally living her life, but then she started observing people around and saw all those things, all these
Yeah.
people with and some ladies coming out of the cars already with masks and gloves.
Mm.
And then I realized that she was coming out of the car in the end and grabbing a bunch of the baby wipes and wiping
Yeah.
her hand and wiping her husband's hand when he came back to the car. And I was like, that is what I'm talking, that is the wave of fear. But it's funny because like I have replied to many people messaging me because I'm a physician, and it's like, what should I do, what extra care, wash my hands right when I wake up, even if I sleep all alone in the room. And I was like, oh, that's excessive. How do you think the virus moves?
Mm.
Like
Yeah.
actually they have ideas that maybe the virus moves actively around the environment. So
like
there are
it's
like
got little legs and
things,
it
there are
travels
things
around.
that don't they're not consonant with the reality sometimes,
So
so it is
m- m-
interesting. I like the epistemology to try to understand, like, okay, why are you afraid? How do you think this works? And not
what I'm saying is
always
though,
end up
people,
like with crazy ideas.
my fellow scientists in the place where I'm working at are also susceptible to really bad behaviors. And I'm not calling out, but I've seen people like wear masks that aren't sterile, that they wear all day, and they have it on their face, and like every 5 minutes they're readjusting it, and they're just making sure. And it's like they're typing on a dirty keyboard, and then they readjust their mask, then they use sanitizer, and then they keep typing again, and then they're like, oh, my hands are dirty. And then they clean their hands and they type again. I'm
That's
watching
amazing.
this and I'm like, what are you doing? If you really care, all you're doing is like making people more concerned, and you're making yourself more at risk of getting an infection of some sort. And it may not even be corona, or like it might not even be COVID-19 SARS. It could be a completely different thing that you just get sick from. But because you've been stressed out so much, maybe you've worked up your immune system so much and in your energy so much that you're just
Actually, I
gonna
said that to my mom
give yourself a
today.
placebo effect, Yeah.
Like, yeah, the thing about the mask was interesting because as soon they start talking about the virus, not
Mm,
as the virus came out in January, but in February when I traveled to Brazil, I saw people already at the airports using masks and gloves,
mm.
and I was laughing because a lot of those gloves and masks were not even protective, were not the
Yeah.
type of the individual protective material. So sometimes we're like just the ones that you use to throw some poison at the farm, or sometimes like some paint, or some cosmetic, like to use dye or something for the hair, sprays and stuff like that. And in gloves as well, some gloves that were for in any other different types than the procedure uh, protective gloves. And uh, and my point with the masks specifically, when I saw people talking about like, oh, there is a shortage of a shortage of gloves, of gloves, no, of masks in the and the around in the pharmacies and everywhere. I was like,
Mm,
I don't remember who I talked to, but I specifically mentioned that it's like that the masks are protective for the person that is sick, infected, not to spread the virus around, and not for the, it's not a preventive way for the people that are healthy. That the only way to protect from a virus in this case would be vaccines. That for the less, like the news that came just out today, apparently is worth to make a vaccine. It works just like the chickenpox virus. It gives you immunity as soon as you have the infection, what would
right,
explain and justify a good
right.
proper use of a vaccine at this moment,
Yeah.
to try to
Mm,
avoid, at least on the, the group of risk, the population
mm,
risk. And but then I mentioned that when you use a mask, at least for people
mm,
that are not used to, and we have
mm.
to go through this preparation, and it's almost a training during university to put the mask and try to not touch it, because mainly if you're in this surgery, you cannot just readjust yourself, you cannot touch anything but the field, you know. And for normal people to just put a mask, what actually causes, it causes them to touch their face much more often, what
Right.
actually
Exactly.
increases the risk of an infection. And I was like, so the mask is counterintuitive and
Yeah. Not only,
counterproductive again.
but you're supposed to put on a mask in a mask that the people are using. You're supposed to put those in a sterile environment and use them in a sterile environment. Not walk outside with them, drive home in a car, cough in them, and wear them all day to the point when you take it off, it's this big sweaty globule of funk that you touch on
Yeah,
the outside because you've been breathing in and absorbing all the debris on the outside of the mask, and you just like pick it up and throw it away. Like there's a technique to it, and you can't just buy it and expect to have the same precau- safety measures that are afforded to people who know how to use it. It's the same way like people buying a gun. Just like, I'm going to buy a gun and just shoot people like this. It's like, no, 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 dude. Like proper gun ownership is is a is a well thought out procedure, and you can't just pick it up and be an expert at it. In the same way, you can't just get a pair of gloves and be good with it, because there's different kinds of gloves, and there's different kinds of masks, and there's it's it you're it seems counterintuitive for a lot of people to think, but if I don't wear a mask, I'm actually going to make myself more sick. It's like absolutely the case. That's why, as you had said, you are going. I don't want to go on too much of a tangent, so I'm just going to finish off this thought. Don't wear a mask. Don't wear gloves. Actually, just wash your hands. It's a great way to just keep yourself clean and not absorb any sort of infectious pathogens on your filter that you're breathing through. And then the other thing on the topic of
it
vaccines, I
is a
think is
good
really
one to talk
interesting.
about the washing hands.
Yeah,
And
you
to
got to
talk
wash your
about
hands.
the washing hands, we should talk
Mm.
about the washing hand, when to wash hands, because I have had this friend
All right.
sending me those messages about like, wow, I washed my hand before I went to bed, and then I
Mm,
slept, and I woke up, and I really feel like, scratching my nose or my eyes, whatever. And do I need to wash my hands again? And I was like,
no.
okay, do you think someone is coming secretly watching you while you're sleeping? you know,
Right.
not
What
even touching you, but sneezing over you,
exactly.
and
So
something like that. And she's like,
I
no.
like to think
And I was like, okay, so he's safe.
I like to think of it as zones. So like if I was using the bathroom and then I go out of the bathroom and I want to make myself a sandwich and say I didn't wash my hands in between those two steps, that'd be terrible, right? Because like now I'm cross
Yeah.
contaminating the bathroom to making the sandwich. So I'm
And
like,
that is why I said, like, should we keep talking about it? Like, hey guys, wash your hands and don't have close contact with sick people as something new? Like, are we not
exactly.
living like that
But the
already?
thing is, that sounds so easy that people don't think it'll save them. And so they'll go out of their way to do something that'll actually hurt them because it feels like they're doing something. And I feel like there's probably like some sort of fallacy that you can draw up from it, but it's like spinning your wheels feels like you're going somewhere, even if you're doing it in not going anywhere, if that makes any sense.
It was funny that my friend that sent me that message later, when I
Mm,
said that she was scared and was sick, and I understand that she's scared because of the media overreacting or over talking, and not specifically is explaining. And she got really mad. She is a journalist, formed journalist, so she was like, oh, it's not true, you're being anti-scientific. And I was like, wait a minute. And she's like, because I use alcohol in jail and everything and I get sick. And I was like, okay, listen, I'm a physician. I have always had close contact with sick people, and I don't get sick that often, more than what I normally know what I'm going to get. I could just blame that I'm a physician and that's why I'm getting sick 4 times a year because I'm a physician. No, that's normal. That is
Hmm.
average. People will get sick every year, sometimes more than once a year, and now we are overreacting because anybody that's collapsing on the street, it's from corona. And confirmation bias for me is
Yeah,
because people are picking and choosing those cases. And I was like,
right.
okay, how many people collapse on the streets in other moments? Like every day, I believe there are people collapsing on the street. But now, because we are in corona times,
We're
the
in
people
Corona times.
collapsing on the streets, the people dying on their house, all those things are kind of new, and they are specific from corona without even diagnose, without even confirming. So that is my problem with all the media doing the
Mhm.
work of picking and choosing and making people scared. They could be more like realistic and talk about, look, people, look at how many people had 25% of people are probably going to be asymptomatics. They will not even have a symptom, or it will be so mild that they will think that's like, oh, it's just was just like an allergy day. That is a quarter of the population that will get infected. And they should talk about this. They should talk about like, oh, the diagnose, even if it's a scary number, like 250, now we're close to 300,000. But I have followed the numbers, and one of the doctors that studied the numbers of cases, confirmed cases, and the spreading of the disease, he has checked the data. The numbers apparently is like 86% are not diagnosed, at least in China, in the first times. And now that is spread it, and that we know that the number would be even worse. I was talking about like, okay, let's consider that we're not diagnosing half of the people that have the problem because nobody's going for checking.
Mm.
And even if you do that, double this number to put in the percentage, to generate the numbers, the percent, the death rate, instead of like present 2%, you're gonna drop for 0.5%, because
This is
that
a
would
lot of
be a
math,
real
Fanny.
number. Sorry.
This is a lot of math I'm trying to keep up with.
Oh no, I'm sorry. No, I'm just talking about like I don't want to get close to the numbers specific, but like I'm just mentioning like the denominator of the death rate, the death
Hmm.
rate, the
Hmm.
denominator number, that is the number of infected, of diagnosed. It's subestimated. It's really
Yeah,
underestimated. Like we would have like maybe double, maybe more than double of the number we have, and that would reduce the number of deaths, of the percentage of the deaths a lot. And those numbers are the numbers that are scary. And my problem with the media is like that they are always talking about, look at those numbers, they are scary, instead of
mm.
talk about like, no, let's consider how many people are having the mild disease and how many people actually have had the disease and they are cured.
Or you could
That's
frame it as
confirmed, cured,
you.
and we're like
Yeah,
just fine.
we could also frame it as in you have a disease that's where the amount of people that die is preventable if you follow these very basic precautions, where you wash your hands, like try to socially isolate yourself for this period of time, and if you're sick, report it to the doctor, and not freak out and don't panic. And for the most part, if you just maintain these things, the rate that we've seen this increase will level out, because for the most part we'll know how to manage it. And by the end of this disease's course, and when it comes back next year, we could talk about that later, we'll be better prepared for how to deal with it. I want to talk about vaccines real quick. Is that cool?
Yeah, let's go. That is actually the last news today. We're about
Mm.
vaccines because they have done studies on rhesus monkeys, on
Oh.
infecting them at first, and checking the numbers, like they are studying not only the dosing the virus, but also the antibodies, to be able to check if a vaccine would be able or would be worth to be done. And when they reinfect the monkeys, they get infected, but with a much mild infection. What
Mm.
would they explain and would they suggest, like to, yeah, let's do the vaccines so we can at least prevent the risk population to have it. And yeah, I hope we can do it. It's
I, I will
at
tell you
least
something
to
that,
protect, yeah, the old people, like, and then talk a little bit about what are the
sure.
population in risk. That I think is interesting, because maybe should something we would pull in the beginning of the conversation, that what we would expect at the beginning of the infection is that young people, like really really young kids that don't have their immune system completely done, or chemotherapy patients with cancer or with HIV, or old people. And we have not seen the same progression on the groups that we are supposed to consider the risk group before. So what we've found on the studies is that it's more specific to people over 65 that have specific disease as hypertension or diabetes or lung, either or, uh, heart disease, and take specific types or classes of medicine. And they also are protective, so they would just increase the infection or the risk on infection. And that's why we need to be more careful and try to overcare on, on the basic hygienics and basic measures, like you said. And try to do the same with people that have close contact with old people.
Mm, I think, I think, all right, if I was going to say, there's a really hard part about making the vaccine to like protect people like that, because um
Sorry,
you could
sorry.
always you could always this is going sort of going back on vaccines, but like you could always make
Can
like
you
a,
raise your volume just a little
uh-oh,
bit? Yeah,
oh no,
you
am I
went
not
down
coming in good?
again.
Hello, am I coming
Okay,
in good?
go
Cool.
ahead.
So you're saying that like this is really like the major concern is how this is affecting really really young and really old, because we're seeing that they're the ones more likely to be at risk if they get infected, right? And then
Yeah,
the Nate.
at the beginning, we would expect that
Mm,
those were the populations more affected or with the worst progression of the disease, and is
right.
not what we have seen so far. It's still, like, of course, we're still afraid, and the doctor is still asking people to stay at home and try to not spread the disease, because the risk now and what we're trying to keep is to flatten the line of the capacity and the demand of the hospital um, beds, like
Yeah, like
we,
better
we
leverage our
want
resources.
to, like, it's not a problem that everybody get the infection. The problem would be everybody getting the infection at the same time.
Right. Yeah. Right. Um, so going back to vaccines, then I would say it's always it making a vaccine's actually really hard on a number of levels. Technically, you could always just cough on someone, and that's technically a controlled infection of another person. But as far as getting through the actual laboratory work and then the follow-up governmental regulation process to show that your vaccine does what you claim it does, that takes a long period of time.
Oh,
Realistically, you're looking at about 18 months to get that done. It's not something you can just knock out in a couple of months and then say, hey, I got it. You could make something that can infect someone in a controlled fashion, but to make something that's regulated for the whole world to use, it's going to
yeah,
take a long
yeah.
time. Yeah.
No, it probably will not be anything for this season
Right.
of this
Exactly.
season.
Exactly.
Definitely
Right.
not. But the important thing to talk as well is not just to talk about this, but as well about the cure and about the progression of the disease, like the natural history of the disease. That, like, we expect that, like, when people say, like, oh, you're science denier, you're just like not avoiding the alarmism, but being like, um, I don't know, I don't know what is the term. I'm not following so close on the fights, but I would say like some people would say like, oh, you're not giving enough importance to the disease, you know, that I'm underestimating it. And it's not true, because what I think it is, I understand the infectivity is the
Yeah,
contagion is,
we were
it
just
is
having that
higher
conversation today.
than other than the normal flu, you know, and the time of exposition, is it's enlarged by the capacity of the fecal oral and the indirect contact. But there is more to talk on the flattening the line. It is just to spread, and everybody, even if everybody gets the disease, we would not all die from it. I think is important, because I see a lot of young healthy people that would go just fine through the corona, freaking
Right.
out, having a hard time to go through this moment right
Mm,
now. You know,
mm,
I have had like today, moms of friends sending me message saying like people were freaking out, other people were depressed, other people were not used to have to stay at home. And I even mentioned on a video in Portuguese saying like, how many people are unemployed, you know, on the planet? Those people live the life of not having schedule and not have to go to work. The only difference that they can't go to the park and to the, you know, to shopping or whatever they used to do. And I understand that is hard, but I don't think, you know, the fear and not everything what they are being uh, is exposed is what is causing more of the bad feeling and some harm that maybe they would not need to go through if we could
right.
just like it, let's live our lives. And I would expect that the CDC would give an you know, an orientation of, let's isolate only the people that get sick and only the people that actually have the risk factors or that
Right.
have contact with these people, with old people, with those factors.
Yeah, we see eye to
uh,
eye on that.
because one argument that I just got yesterday,
Mm,
that even saves us from all the vaccine and conversations, is like Japan is close country that was really closely exposed to the virus, and they did not do any lockdown decree or martial law, anything like that. And we know how conglomerated agglomerated is the country, Japan, and they are not suffering with the same. And so like I think you said, is just basic hygienic and measures, overcare with those specific groups, and normal life. I think it is just going to cause a lot of trouble in the future economically, you know,
uh,
that like
yeah.
freak out.
I hope I hope we will learn from this because, like I said, this is not the first time we've had SARS, and it's not the second or the third. As far as we know, we've had this even as far back as Egyptian times. Like people would try to loot Egyptian tombs like in the modern era and get sick, and then we'd find out, oh man, there's this whole new disease that makes you have respiratory problems. It's really acute. We'll have to give this a name or something. But it's a virus that's been around for a while. And I think in 2002 we had COVID 2. That was like and that killed about 700 people. So for that entire duration. So definitely this one is more, but on grand order of things, this is nowhere near, HIV, smallpox, like swine flu,
Polio, yeah.
Ebola, polio. Like we've had, like if there was a top 10 list of like deadliest viruses, I don't think this would make the top 10. That said, I'm not trying to downplay this as like no big deal. This is a big deal and we should have precautions. My issue is we shouldn't be panicking. And if there's people panicking with Corona 2 or 19 because that gives them permission to start hoarding resources and cross contaminating areas, I would say, hey, look at these other ways that you could die that are far more likely: traffic, cancer, over digestion of sugar. You're still smoke. You still drink Diet Coca-Cola and like chow down on Tic Tacs all day. You If you've flown a plane, and you're probably at more risk of dying in that, or of a snake bite times More people will die of snake bites this year than the number of people who've died from coronavirus times 10 ish. So like we had like about 14 confirmed deaths right now, if that's the number that's currently right now, and not infected. I think we have like 380,000 people infected, but if the confirmed deaths is like 14,000, there'll be 138,000 people who will die from a snake bite. So if you're not freaking out over snakes, don't freak out over, you know, this. Like we have a means that will actually be really useful to like reduce your chances of getting infected. CDC reports very soberly, and I love their weekly addresses to the public where if you are older than 10 but younger than 75 or something like that, you're probably going to be okay. You might get infected, but you might even not even show any symptoms. And if you do, you may not even need to go to a doctor. What we're saying right now is just wash your hands and try not to get other people sick. Just have exercise, stronger hygiene than normal. And I find them to be a more reliable, less inflammatory news source than what you can get from a 24-hour news cycle that has ads and is information told by experts that are designed to look pretty, rather than just people who derive the information and are willing to give it to you in the very straightforward sense. If you are looking for good sources of information, um, I would highly recommend that you check out the CDC's YouTube channel. They do a weekly call to the public and press where they just flat out say what the news is, but they don't have an agenda behind it other than just being as informative as possible. And there's no character or cast of people or doctors there. It's always sometimes a different person each time. It's like, hey, I'm on shift now. Sure, I'll be happy to answer these questions. And the reporters that are fielding the questions are very calm in their way that they're asking, and the information that we're getting is like very commonsensical. And I find like if this is the tone of how our information is being travel or being expressed, we wouldn't see people as prone to panicking as we are now. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate when anyone dies, but what we're looking at now is a way to curb the number of people who die, and that's good. And we're only going to get better at it. And I figure there's a more optimistic route of explaining what's going on than this constant need to scare people, because that's not going to help anyone in the long term. That's me. I feel like we're on the same page on that too. Yeah, that's coronavirus in a nutshell. Yeah.
It is a good one. Yeah. No, I think we said a lot. Probably probably need more detail about everything, but
Mm,
I think like you said, the problem is more the reaction, the
yeah.
overreaction.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
example, like you know, people are getting scared of don't find things at the shelves at the supermarket. I think you send that was the picture you tried to send here on show
Right.
open up at the beginning,
Right.
and then they react the same way with the guns because after the toilet paper, I think people went after the guns. In some states, I don't know if you heard of that, and then and
Oh.
then after, and then also now I heard just yesterday, I think I received some articles or something, some people sending me vlogs and blogs matters about how the people were going to the pharmacies and trying to buy the medicine for malaria because they heard that that was the medicine to treat corona. And I even made a video earlier today in Portuguese talking about, like, first of all, the treatments, like just yesterday it came really good papers talking how to really treat corona, and it is about the hydroxychloroquine plus azithromycin. So they are using the anti-malaria medicine plus antibiotics, but some specific, the azithromycin is an antibiotic that works for some viruses. But those medicine, like mainly the medicine that people are going and trying to buy, the hydroxychloroquine, uh, in Brazil, there are patients that use it regularly for other problems, and now they cannot buy for their regular use with people sitting on top of this medicine that don't even know if you're going to use. And the
Right.
most important thing, those medicine you need to go through
Yeah.
a lot of blood tests before you start taking them, and go through even um, eye tests, because they can affect your eye, your vision, your sight. So it's like they are not medicine that you're going to take by yourself. Even if you think you have corona, I'm going to just take, and it's not how it works. In fact, the medicine, one thing that I have not made any video, so talking about how those medicines affect the disease specifically, is just like it reduces the contagiousness of the disease. So it doesn't actually increase or improve the prognosis of the patient if he takes the medicine or not. It's still just a viruses, you know. And like I said in Portuguese in the video earlier today, we know how to treat flu. We just need to treat the symptoms. There is no way of
Right.
taking the flu away, So it's like control the symptoms and let it go. Viruses are auto-limited disease infections, and in, of course, it doesn't work for the HIV because it's a virus that actually will affect specifically your immune system, and that's why
Mm.
we try to control it. We don't actually have a cure for it, and
Right.
in the
Right.
case of the corona, what we're gonna do is treat just the worst cases. It's like dengue in Brazil that I mentioned earlier.
Mm.
We have
Mm-hmm.
4 different types, and viruses are always mutating. So even if you have one type, doesn't mean you have the worst type or that you're gonna die from it. And that's why we have the alarming signs and symptoms that you should, go to the hospital if you have those. If you have short of breath and if you have a fever, you should go to the hospital. And that's why I even mentioned to some people, like, stop taking medicine without need. If you don't need, don't take just painkillers, because that will suppress your fever, and then would be a sign that shows some type of gravity, and that maybe you should go to the hospital and try to get checked. But remember that we're gonna have colds and flus
Right.
and
It's going
allergic
to be pollen
symptoms that
season. We're going to be sick.
simulate that, that imitates corona. And then you go as curiosity, as fear, or just with a normal flu at the hospital, and then you get corona. That's not cool. And that's why, like, try to go only if you need, try to buy the things you need, and avoid the panic, avoid the fever, avoid the fever of the panic that's going around. um, and like you said, I think the most important thing, inform yourself, and don't go crazy on the alcohol in gel or the washing hands. Like you said, like, do the same thing, like, try to wash your hands before you manipulate food, mainly if you're cooking for a big group. Try to wash your hands before you eat, and after you use the toilet, or
Yeah.
like coming out, like,
I
sometimes
think of it as like zones. You
if
leave
you
a
were like,
zone, wash
yes,
your
these
hands.
zones, yeah. If
Yeah.
you came from the streets, you went
Wash your
from,
hands. Yeah.
or going to work, sometimes you go enter in a bus, or touch places and door handles and stuff that other people touch. And yeah, okay, arrive there, wash your hands, but don't go over crazy, like, if you have your hands in the pockets all day long, don't think you got something from that, that the virus somehow is sneaked in
Though
your pocket.
there are people who will like use a napkin to open up doors, then put the napkin in their pocket, then walk to another door and pull out the napkin and then open up that door. And like in my head, it's like if you just washed your hands in between going in between rooms, instead of cross contaminating each doorknob, you won't also cross contaminate the inside of your pocket with each of those door handles. Because now the inside of your pocket is as dirty as every door handle in the building that you didn't want to touch. Does that make sense?
Totally. The same thing with the people with the gloves. Have you seen them changing
Oh
their
no.
gloves all the
They're throwing
time, or they do everything?
no.
I love those.
Let me show you a glove.
Touch
They're throwing
everything
away
with the same glove, their face.
right in front of my door. There are people who don't know how to use nitrile gloves, and so they're throwing them away right in front of my door. Not not in front of my door, but like in the space where people got to walk around. Let me show you this. It's hard to show you pictures very quickly on this software. I will say that. Like I could show you pictures. Oh, I can just share my screen. How about that? Here, sharing my screen. Can you see? Oh, my bad. Can you see?
Not yet.
So these two guys. are nitrile gloves that I found in
Yeah,
front of my
I
doorway. I'd
see
rather see dog poop. I'd rather see dog poop on the sidewalk. But
it.
people are wearing gloves and they're like, okay, done with the glove. I don't want to bring this inside. I'll just throw it on the ground. I'm like, how inconsiderate, Kate, do you have to be to just do stuff like that? Because then normally when I see trash outside, I pick it up and throw it away. But in this environment, I'm like, dude, I don't know
Yeah.
where your sanitary gloves have been. I don't
Yeah,
want to get
yesterday I
contaminated with
felt
this.
bad about this because I am the type of person that if I find the garbage on the floor, whatever I am,
Yeah.
I will grab it and put in a garbage can, the next garbage bin I find. But yesterday they were like someone felt like someone just ripped a plastic bag full of garbage on one of the corners here close to my house,
Mm.
and I was walking by and I was like, wow, it's gonna be the first time I don't help to grab the garbage on the floor because it's not time for that. But sad, and it was messy, and I was like, oh
Yeah, it's
no,
gross.
yeah. I can't believe someone would just throw things on the floor. It could help,
And
like helping now is like please don't throw anything on the floor.
and let me put it this way: there's always going to be that person that makes things worse. There's always going to be a person who's going to pee in the pool, if that makes sense, right? Like there's always going to be a pool peer, and and what we're trying to do with this virus thing is make sure those people don't have the opportunity to spread
Oh, did you?
more germs all around the place.
I think
Because
we're kind of
I
like
feel like a lot of the rules
just
we make.
is
Oh my bad.
yeah, we lagged a little bit, just a
I'm
little.
saying
You
a
froze
lot of
just
the
a sec.
a lot of the rules that we come up with are for the common denominator of people, which are the people that we try to just like, please don't hurt well-meaning people. It's like, oh, okay, I won't juggle knives then. It's like that's why we make laws that you can't juggle knives or stuff like that. It's for those guys. So like a lot of these things that are coming out are for making sure that the lowest common denominator of human being can still contribute to not spreading the disease. So like if it means everybody has to stay home, at least it's being equally proported. But this is also for those people who are just like, yeah, I got nitrile gloves in my hands. I don't want them in my house. I'm going to throw them on the ground right in front of where I live. It's for these people. So what are you going to
Definitely.
do? It is what it is. But again, I think it's for a good cause. We should be taking precautions. Let's just try not to panic. That's all.
Can I send this to you and then you put it there? Let me see if I can send the tweet. I
If you
found the
share your
tweet
screen, you can
about the
show it.
Atheist Day, but I don't know how to put it on here.
You can share your screen. The big green button on the bottom that says
Oh, but
share.
it's not in the computer. Now I have it on the phone.
Mm.
So wait a minute. Would be on the messenger. Let me do it here. Let's see if you're gonna be able to receive. Did you receive anything there?
Let's see. It's on Messenger.
It's
Ooh.
like a Twitter. You have Twitter, no?
I got Twitter. I see the link. You want me to see Mustafa or Abed?
You see if you can open the picture on the.
Okay.
I'm gonna share.
Oh, it's a green circle.
See the
Here.
green circle I told you about the Atheist Day. So
Yeah.
last year I saw something on Twitter, and then this year, just early this month, the Atheist Republic started sharing this, and yeah, that's it. Atheist Day, March 23rd.
All right. It's a weird logo because it feels like it could apply to anything, literally anything. It's like Mulan's out
I
in
thought, can
theaters
it do
today.
like
Day.
that, or that is bad?
Huh?
The okay, like a green circle Atheist Day.
Yeah, like I see a green circle and I'll be like, hey, that guy likes green circles. Like there would be no way for me to apply
Now
it to
you know.
anything.
I
I
think the symbols are being created so fast that I see a lot of symbols around that I have no
you
idea what
literally
they mean.
dude, you literally can replace this word with anything and be like, it's bacon day. I'd be like, yeah, it's a big circle. Don't you know that's bacon? Like, there's no way. That's a silly logo. I'm sorry.
It would work well for bacon, I guess. Atheist Day,
It could
bacon.
work for anything. It's just big green circles. That's it. Oh no.
At
What am I
least the
looking at
atheists are
now?
not gonna have any problem on eating
Mm,
bacon, I guess,
right.
if they are just atheists.
Okay, so is this like atheism day, but for specifically people from coming out of Islam?
Oh, I I honestly don't know. I have seen the trending thing on the circle for Atheist Day.
because I see
It's just
ex-Muslims
15
of,
of the month, but I
and
would
then
not be able to tell you.
okay, okay, cool.
One interesting thing is like that uh the I always check on, actually this is from Atheist Republic as well. It was someone, it's just like priests or evangelical pastors talking about how the coronavirus is actually a punishment coming from God because of gay people.
Okay,
They will. And I was like, my point was like, okay,
nothing
so
new.
God will never stop punishing us unless gay people stop existing. That is His fault to start.
He
So like,
keeps
what
making
is
them though.
wrong? What is wrong? The same thing. Like a lot of, I had to unfollow a few people in this Corona
Mm.
moment. Just like the
Oh
ones that
no.
keep trying to explain Corona with religiosity or
Right.
Nostradamus.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, I can't see those memes. I can't see those posts anymore. It's just like, it's just too silly, you know? Or some people
Right.
like, okay, I did not unfollow. I just made jokes. And okay, I'm running the risk of losing the friends or then blocking me because I made a joke on their posts on like talking about you just need the blood of Jesus in this moment of coronavirus.
Yeah,
And
I
I
have
was like,
thought I for the
why did
first
he
time today,
make it to start?
right? For the first time today, I actually thought about like the number of people who will, when this event's over, thank God for getting them through this coronavirus scare. When at this height of the frenzy, it's people being like, thoughts and prayers aren't really getting me through this. I need to start doing whatever the scientists are doing. What are the scientists doing? Wearing face masks? I'll wear face masks. Wearing gloves? I'll wear gloves. And like only making the situation worse for themselves. But when we're done with this, and all the scientists are like, actually, if you get sick, you're going to be okay for the most part. Like it's very rare, and it's only like very special groups that are getting. So it's like, oh, at the end of all of this, it'll be people being like, thank God I made it through.
Yeah. Thank
And
God I
I'll be
did
like,
not have the disease, or thank
I'll
God
be
I
like,
had the disease but I survived. You know,
I'll be
like
like,
all the
all right. What are we gonna do? Well, you can be happy. Like it's America. You can be happy. You can be thankful about whatever you want. So I won't force that. But it is what it is. Um, I think probably as like the
You want to
big.
do the orientation about washing hands? I did the other day a video about like how to wash your hands according to the surgery guidelines. And if you want, we can do this here to tell people how to wash their hands properly.
Okay, show me.
Okay, you do like the soap, you know,
Mm.
in the case, I bet people were using more liquid soap, you know, like, so you even can pump with your elbow and like go for the normally with a little bit of water. So normally people stop on the first one, and I've seen
Oh,
a lot of doctors just saying do it for 20 seconds, so people keep
yes.
like counting 20
Yeah.
seconds on doing the same movement, but you
Mm.
actually can do other movements that include
Yeah.
washing
You
in
get
between your fingers, you know.
getting
So
those
I normally do the
fingernails.
front
Okay.
and I do the back of the hand. So
Okay.
it would be like three movements. And then I
Mm.
do the, you know, inside we do like this. So we're moving like sideways.
Ooh, cool.
Okay. So you're washing kind of the inside of your fingers and also the inside of your nails.
Fingernails.
Mainly for
Yeah.
ladies that have long nails is really
Yeah.
important, you
Yeah.
know. And then you do this to
Ooh,
wash
what's
your
this?
fingertips. Yeah.
Oh,
This
okay.
is other
Cool.
movement. And then in the end, you do the wiping the back and the palm and do like a kind of your thumb doing this.
If all those signs were sign language,
And
this is
then
the
you
only
do.
sign that I understand because this
Okay.
means
And
milk,
then
but
the
everything.
last orientation is that you do the try to rinse each hand apart instead of
Mm.
touching, rinse and let it go down, and then take a
Oh.
clean cloth and do one hand for each face of the cloth. So those
Oh.
are like basic things, and then you have 20 seconds even more to spend doing those movements, you know. And it actually, this is like a little guideline that we wash our hands like for the surgery. In surgery normally we have the brushes, in fact, so we do more than that. But I really think the brush is more for people that have long nails, ladies that
Mm,
like the long nails. I don't like those.
hey,
Don't.
that's another topic for another time.
Yeah. And I think pretty much this. Well, have you seen anybody talking from inside? I have tried to talk to some doctors, and everybody's just more scared. The cases are not confirmed, you know, everywhere. Like, it's, I don't know. I understand the doctors want to flatten the line, and that's
Right.
why people should not really go there just to get infected, to cross infect.
Yeah.
But what I don't know. I think people should be talking about, like, hey, I have a cold, not specifically a coronavirus. Like, flu we have every year and many times a year. And I don't know. Have you had your flu this year? Are you cold or having
No, I
a
have not
cold?
had the flu this year. I think a lot of people
So
say they
you
have the flu.
definitely not corona.
If I got it, I wouldn't be that worried either way. But I would say also there is a lot of misconceptions with people getting sick and just being like, sick versus getting the flu, because having the flu really puts you down. It's not just something that you're like, oh, I'm coughing and sneezing and I can still go to work, but I just feel a little tired. It's like, that's not the flu. That's just you being sick. There's a big difference between the two. And
The,
so,
the
yeah,
confirmation bias that a little bit.
yeah.
I saw something like it's someone big. I don't know if you know him, Tim Pool. He's a big YouTuber, and
Mm,
he read one of his videos. He makes many videos a day. One of his videos, I think it was yesterday, was about a guy that wrote a big uh, personal report about his girlfriend that died at home. And it is a suspect case of corona, and did not even have the test results. And I was like, by what, like, watching his video, reading it, I was like, okay, I'm sorry, but this person was not doing it right,
mm,
and that's not the right way that you treat a disease. She was drinking alcohol, not eating properly,
yeah.
while being with a suspicious of having corona. And like, oh, okay, I'm not gonna test it because other people need the test. And I understand the good idea, but what about the
What
other
other people need
bad
to test? What
measures
is
that
that?
she took for her health that probably are much more important in the case of dying than
Yeah.
just to be corona?
Mm. You're also a physician, so you probably know these things too. But like a virus is not, like you were telling me before. Like a virus is not a thing that jumps off walls and attacks people. It's there. A lot of people are like, I keep hearing these weird things. Like, do you know it can survive on surfaces for 10 minutes? No, I heard it was 3 days. No, I heard it was a week. No, I heard it was 4. I was like, dude, if I took a banana and I left it out in the sun, it'll go bad in a day. If I put a banana in a freezer, it'll last for years, basically, right? It's not so much the virus, it's about the conditions that it's being stored in that detail how long it can survive. Like it's all about the surface conditions that it's on that detail how long it can be a potential source of infection for other people. And there's not a killing a virus, because they're not living things, they're just packets of like DNA that
It's
like are really good.
diversalized.
Yeah, it's like, well, it has DNA, that means it's alive. It's like, no, dude, there's I should be careful with what I say, but there's a lot of things that, like, you can have something that dies, like a cat can die, like you can have a pet that dies and it still has DNA in it, but it's not alive anymore. So you can have living things that have DNA and dead things that have DNA. But a virus is just a thing that has DNA. It's not living or dead. And it's really, really, really small. And it's the same thing like with a computer. Like a computer is like an organism, right? It's got networks, it's got power, it can process a whole bunch of different things, and then a virus comes in and uses that computer to propagate itself to other computers, and that's basically what the virus is doing. And the weird thing about how our bodies work is we have this little enzyme that makes new copies of DNA whenever a cell splits. And that enzyme is called the polymerase enzyme. It makes polymers, it makes long chains of DNA. And there's one specific one that's dedicated for making new strands of DNA. It's called TAC polymerase, TAC polymerase. And it's the reason why we all look different. It's the reason why I'm black and you are not black, because we're all human beings, but as you make new generations of people, they look slightly different from their parents. and slightly different from their grandparents and so on and so on. It's because Taq polymerase, when it's making a new cell, even inside your own body, it's only 99.9% efficient at making an exact copy of that cell. And in some cases, and when it's really out of control, it can cause things like cancer. But in the other way, it can make populations of people that are so diverse that when a disease comes out like this, it doesn't kill everybody because everyone's body is working in a slightly different way. But on the flip side, it also makes viruses that manipulate cells to propagate themselves very, very quickly really, really hard to tackle because those viruses will be different, slightly different between different people, even among different viruses in the same host. And that's why every year we come out with a new version of like a coronavirus, because after a certain point, the iterations are so different that it's basically the same family of virus, but different enough that you need a different means of antibody to fix it, or a different vaccination method to resolve it. And that's why we have the seasonal flu that comes out slightly different each time. And if you get vaccinated for the last year's flu, it doesn't mean you won't get sick this year, but it will reduce your chances of reducing your symptoms if you do have it, and it maybe even keep you from having it altogether. But it's also why it's so hard to make a SARS vaccine, because you have to, like I said, wait 18 months generally to come up with a new one. By then you might have two different SARS vaccines, and it may be even only good for the ones in China and not good for the one that broke out in Italy. And so what do? Do you have like 4 different vaccines? Or are you going to spend 36 months working on multiple vaccines for things that will come out with new diseases each year? It's this really hard thing. So what we really need to be doing is the very basics that are very effective towards getting us not sick, which is, the social distancing, the washing our hands, and the general practices that we do normally to try to keep ourselves well, eating healthy, taking care of our bodies well, and staying as informed as possible without making ourselves prone to panic, because none of those things are a benefit to getting us sick. And yeah, the chemistry is pretty straightforward. The way to fix yourself is pretty straightforward too, but that doesn't mean that it's not effective, and that's what we should be focusing on. uh yeah, that's about it.
Seems
I think we're
like
good.
seems like we did cover a bunch of things.
We sure
Really good. Thank you.
did.
Thank you for coming.
Cool.
Thank you for
Cool.
accepting the invite.
We can always talk again. I enjoy always our time together, so
Yeah, I guess
yeah.
this would cause enough people to comment and talk and maybe bring some more for next time.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
let's set it
totally
up
down for
again.
you.
Cool. So this closes out the show. I appreciated being here. Thank you so much for having me over. It's fun to be able to touch my face in my own home. But I got my hand sanitizer and all that stuff too. But yeah.
So yeah,
Uh
no, yeah. Please upload it on Let's Chat and let's keep. How do you have everything? No, Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, everything. Let's
I would
Chat.
say don't follow me. If you're going to follow anything, just go on the CDC's YouTube channel. So just look at the Central Disease and Control YouTube channel. Get some good information in your body. The videos are not fun, but they are informative. And that's all you need at a time like this. You don't need to fall in love with a new expert that's very handsome with gray hair on one side and like really
No,
nice
no, it's
sideburns.
just
Like,
for people
no,
to support your Let's Chat,
just
and then
real
they
people
can
talking.
go there, check CDC, and then come talk about some more stuff.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
would
yeah,
say
yeah.
like I suggested in one of my live videos for people to check on the YouTube channel called Mad Cram. Is a doctor that I follow personally, and
Mm,
he has followed. He's in the 40th second video. He is following daily the corona. So everything about the studies, everything about the studies that have raised some hypotheses that are not really finished, and about the medicine that could be a risk factor for the disease on the progression, but talking much more against, like, they are not conclusive, and pointing how that are just hypotheses,
mm,
and coming with news about how to treat the patients and how those medicine actually work for people that want to go through like the chemistry level of how the medicine works in the cells and how actually treats the virus, how to reduce the contagiousness of the virus. it's a little bit deeper, but it is pretty cool. And yeah, I totally say is the CDC is the best way. Even one thing that we started talking about was like my mom was afraid, and I understand. My father is a physician and he's
Mm,
66 and he has hypertension and diabetes and take both of the medicine that's supposed to increase the risk of the infection. So
sure.
he just stopped working today because
Good.
showed up two suspect cases in the city.
Mm,
I wanted him to stop, but like I said, just because he is in the risk group, nothing more than that. And talking about that, she's like trying to calm her down. It's like, oh, she actually ended up saying like she's not afraid because he's at home already. And I was just mentioning like, if you're gonna spend any energy on getting in panic or getting afraid and rubbing your hands too much and scratching your head about it, go get informed, like you said, because to keep the stress, to just keep stressing and freaking out about this actually will just lower your immunity. Stress is bad for your immunity. So go get informed. Don't enter panic. Don't enter panic mode.
I agree.
It would be bad for your health.
Okay. I think that's a great place to. I think that's the best final words I've heard. Yeah. Let's do
Okay,
this again
Kai.
next week. We can talk
Let's
again for
try.
sure.
Let's
Yeah.
try to chat, or let's chat.
Cool. Thank you so much, Fanny. I
Thank
appreciate this time.
you. I will still send you kisses. But I'm not touching. I'll have to say,
Yeah.
going like
Yeah. You
this,
have to be
okay?
careful. Yeah. Virtual fist bump or elbow bump.